My name is Waffles, and I'm a government whistleblower turned political commentator, and this is the last 24 hours in the news. Today is July 25th, 2025. It is 9:51 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Here are the top U.S. headlines for the past 24 hours. George Santos begins his 7-year prison sentence for fraud, surrendering to a federal prison in New Jersey amid widespread reaction to his high-profile fall from Congress. Alina Habba remains as acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey after her federal judicial nomination was withdrawn by Trump, a move that allows her to continue wielding prosecutorial power despite criticism of politicization. Judge delivers a third ruling blocking Trump's executive order aimed at restricting birthright citizenship, reaffirming its unconstitutionality worldwide. International and Foreign Affairs U.S. forces reportedly killed a senior ISIS leader and 2 of his sons during a raid in Syria, underscoring ongoing counter-terrorism operations. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is set to meet Trump in Scotland, with trade negotiations reportedly near a potential US-EU deal before tariffs escalate on August 1st. Economy and trade retailers like Puma face a tariff dilemma. To avoid planned U.S. tariffs, they rushed imports from Asia, only to be stuck with rising inventory and slumping demand stateside. Climate safety and public health. More than 100 million Americans remain under extreme heat alerts, with flash flooding in some regions adding to public danger amid rising temperatures. A tragic heat-related safety incident. A 3-year-old foster child in Alabama died after being left in a hot car in state custody for over 5 hours. Debunking dangerous viral rumors, CBS News exposed AI-generated fake videos circulating online falsely predicting a Yellowstone eruption, highlighting the need for media literacy. Justice and Ethics. Lori Vallow Daybell sentenced to 2 life terms in Arizona after convictions in a conspiracy that involved multiple murders linked to her cult beliefs. House Ethics Committee finds AOC violated rules related to her 2021 Met Gala dress and orders that she repay additional fees for the event. Ethics panel censures a lawmaker over insider stock trading involving his wife, raising concerns about transparency and misuse of power. George Santos begins prison time. Federal scrutiny continues over the birthright citizenship policy. High-stakes trade talks and military operations signal U.S. engagement abroad. Economic unrest. Retailers feel tariff pressures. Consumer costs rise amid inflationary trends. Extreme heat misinformation serve as urgent reminders of situational preparedness. Ethics and governance. Public officials face renewed ethical scrutiny covering everything from judicial appointments to ceremonial events. Market highlights for Friday, July 25th, 2025. The stock market closed with the S&P 500, which rose at 0.4%, closing at an all-new time high of 6,388.64, marking its 5th consecutive record close. Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.5%, reaching 44,901.92, continuing its upward momentum, though still just shy of its all-time peak. Nasdaq Composite added 0.2%, closing at a record 21,108.32, powered by strength in tech and AI-related stocks. Other market indicators. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index rose 0.4% to 2,261.7 cents. The CBOE Volatility Index VIX fell about 9%, hitting its lowest point since February, a sign of elevated investor confidence. Why it matters. This marks a record-breaking week driven by strong corporate earnings, including standout performances from Deckers, which is up 11.3%, and Newmont 6.9%, and positive trade developments. Intel saw an 8.5% drop following disappointing earnings and its announced job cuts, weighing on tech sentiment. Optimism rose following trade agreements with Japan and the Philippines, while talks with Canada and Mexico and the EU remain unsolved ahead of an August 1st tariff deadline. Attention now turns to next week's Federal Reserve policy decision, with expectations that rates will likely remain unchanged though a rate cut may be possible later this year. Hazard highlights for the weather: extreme heat and heat advisory zones. A major heat dome is expanding over the central U.S. and moving towards the east, impacting over 100 million people. Heat index values are 10 to 15 degrees of Fahrenheit above normal, with some areas in the southeast and mid-Atlantic expecting indices above 115 degrees Fahrenheit, even overnight. Heat advisories and warnings are in effect across a wide swath from Maine to North Carolina and from the Tennessee Valley to the southeast. Severe storms and flash flood risk. Forecast models show potential severe thunderstorms with heavy rainfall and flash flooding, stretching from the northern plains through the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes by midweek. Marginal risk areas, especially in parts of Illinois, Indiana, northeastern states, and the Florida Panhandle, indicate possible flooding and convective storms by Friday and Saturday. In drought-impacted regions, heat and dry limbs may also elevate wildfire risk, particularly in the west, including Utah and Oregon. Flash flood and cascading hazards study this summer saw over 3,160 flash flood warnings issued nationwide by mid-July, a record number. Scientists warn of cascading hazards where one extreme event amplifies the risk of another. Flash flooding, leading to runoff, contamination, or landslides. Regional outlooks and public safety tips. South and southeast U.S. heat indices likely between 105 to 112 degrees Fahrenheit, with potential for extreme heat warnings extending into early next week. High humidity and overnight temperatures will limit relief. Staying hydrated and telling community members about cooling centers is essential. Midwest and North Plains expect scattered and intense thunderstorms with hail and wind, particularly Saturday and Sunday. Flash flooding is possible in areas experiencing repetitive storms. Consider issuing outdoor activity cautions, especially in storm-prone zones. Northeast and mid-Atlantic, slight chances of severe thunderstorms, especially near boundaries, moving through the late week. Some coastal regions face rip current risks and minor coastal flooding, especially near high tides in eastern Virginia and the Carolinas. Western U.S. active low-pressure systems may fuel localized storms in the Great Basin and Rockies, though the dominant hazard remains heat and wildfire danger, especially under ridge building patterns. Global headlines. Here are the top headlines for the world for the past 24 hours. UK and France and Germany demand ceasefire in Gaza. The UK, France, and Germany issued a joint statement demanding an immediate end to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. They called for Israel to lift aid restrictions, implement a ceasefire, release hostages unconditionally, and disarm Hamas. Still, France moves ahead with reorganizing Palestinian statehood in September. Tragically, malnutrition rates among children and pregnant women in Gaza have soared in recent weeks. M23 rebels and DR Congo reach peace agreement. In Doha, a peace deal was signed between DR Congo and the M23 rebel group, mediated in Qatar. The agreement is intended to stem ongoing violence in eastern Congo, though challenges remain for enforcing the ceasefire. Elon Musk reportedly shut down Starlink in Ukraine. New revelations suggest that Elon Musk ordered a shutdown of Starlink and service in parts of Ukraine like Kherson and Donetsk in late 2022 to prevent escalation with Russia. The blackout hindered Ukrainian operations and sparked internal frustration over reliance on private infrastructure for defense. Australia faces pressure to recognize Palestine. Australia's Labour MPs are joining international momentum following France in calling for a recognition of Palestinian statehood amid protests and political debate. Separately, Australia and the UK agreed to expand the AUKUS Defence Pact within a 50-year treaty.
Just an FYI to anyone considering following me or the followers that I do have. I'm not a content creator. I'm a dipshit with a phone. Sometimes I post funny shit, other times I post stupid shit. Either way, we're going to post a lot of shit.
More cautious, emphasizing recognition must be part of a comprehensive peace framework that also ensures Israel's security. Aid shortages and international criticism highlight the stakes. British mother arrested in Mauritius drug bust. A 35-year-old British woman was arrested in Mauritius on suspicion of smuggling 1.6, I think that's pounds, I don't know, it's the dollar sign for Britain, million in cannabis hidden in her 6-year-old son's suitcase. She claims coercion by a crime gang and faces harsh jail conditions while her son returned safely to the UK. I'm just reporting the news. Steve Bannon urges visa ban amid tech layoffs in response to massive layoffs in U.S. tech. Firms like Intel and Microsoft and political figures including Steve Bannon advocated halting H-1B visas, arguing that so-called Einsteins should remain in their countries. U.S. lawmakers like J.D. Vance support visa reform to prioritize American workers. Scottish mob hit suspected Spain connection. Spanish authorities are investigating the double murder of Glasgow clan members in Fuengirola as a coordinated gangland hit. I'm sorry, I am learning how to pronounce certain words. I'm just reporting the news. Okay, I apologize. I am not trying to laugh at this atrocities that has happened. There was a double murder, okay? But I am having difficulty with pronouncing words, and I'm sorry. I got hung up on that one. Officials suspect the assassin acted with insider help and possibly a support team, inflaming tensions between organized crime networks. Key themes and public safety context. Escalation in Gaza continues to demand urgent humanitarian and reporting attention, especially as international pressure mounts and food aid dwindles. Private tech infrastructure influencing geopolitics is an ongoing concern, as seen in the Starlink controversy affecting Ukraine's military operations. Visa politics tied to employment and national security are entering major policy debates during a volatile tech layoff period in the U.S. Organized crime footprints are increasingly cross-border, and journalists should emphasize the risk to public safety as crime networks operate internationally. My name is Waffles. I'm a government whistleblower turned political commentator. Today is July 25th, 2025. It is 10:11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And this is the last 24 hours in the news.
So the Olympics is great. And Johnny, for the others, you know, the World Cup, Johnny is the head of it. We had our top people, Wasserman. They all came in on the Olympics, and then I saw Johnny. And we got the World Cup, too. And, you know, it's only because they rigged the election that I'll be your president representing you there. You know, I got both of them. I got the Olympics, and I got the World Cup. And I said, you know, it's too bad. One was in 2026, and the other was in 2028. And I said, I won't be there. I won't be your president. But then they rigged the election. And now we won, so I'm going to be your president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So, Johnny, thank you for the World Cup. And everybody, thank you for the Olympics. We're going to have a great time.
Hey, guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment to my videos. And also, don't forget to check out my shop where you could get this awesome Real Patriots Punch Nazis t-shirt. America, fuck yeah. And if you go to the link tree in my bio on most platforms, it's got links to everything, all of my stuff. You can find my shop there. I'm on eBay. You can also get this cool Exterminate MAGA sticker, because MAGA's fucking cockroaches. And fuck MAGA. Abolish MAGA. Fuck you, MAGA.